for him because it was a lot of 5-on-5 sort of contact stuff. But just to get him out there going, he's feeling better every day, which is a good sign. And so hopefully we'll see how the road trip goes.
Sure, yeah. I mean, at least, with the skating part of it, that part looked good, eh?
Yeah, no, he seems to be moving. And he's been doing a lot more sort of conditioning / playing, doing stuff at high speed, which is the big test.
And I'm going to ask you the same thing I asked a couple of players we had a chance to talk to, but when you look at things from the big picture or long-range perspective, with what happened against Vegas and knowing how you practiced today, can that be sometimes more beneficial than, and I'm not using the Boston game in particular, but a game where maybe you're not pushed to that same limit?
Again.
Can you gain more from the loss to Vegas last night?
I see what you mean.
Compared to what you would gain,
in an 8-1 hockey. Yeah, I think we're always learning lessons. I think like I've tried to explain, we've had like 3 full practices here in the last 2 weeks or whatever it might be, almost 3 weeks. Today again, there was something that I wanted to touch on that I hadn't had a chance to touch on. Like the other day, it was something different, and there was certain areas that we have to improve on. There's areas that I want to continue to build on, and that's just part of kind of game 31. We looked at stuff from the Vegas game, and they do stuff different than Boston. And Montreal's going to do stuff different than Vegas. So it's kind of trying to just polish up our game, our 5-on-5 game. And like I said, we haven't had a lot of chances to do that. So it's kind of been building here to get these reps in.
Against Boston, you guys generated a bunch when maybe they thought they had a breakout going. And then yesterday you gave up a goal on a breakout sort of play that they stuff. What's the key to sort of owning that?
Yeah, I mean, one thing about Boston, we did a great job with our 5-man breakout. Vegas is a little different look to it. They pressure heavy with their forwards. Their D aren't as aggressive. They weren't pinching as much. We didn't catch them like we caught Boston's D. Vegas stays, their D stay over top, and they kind of allow you to, kind of force stuff into the middle. But for me, it really is. It's another area we touched on this morning. It's when we break out as 5 and we have support. When we're in a position where it isn't just one option for, let's say, our D or our winger to make. When there's multiple options, we're a lot smoother and a lot cleaner coming out of there.
I should ask him, but with Vegas' D maybe backing off a little bit more. Would Kyle Connor have been maybe a bit surprised there when it gets poked away from him, maybe not expecting that back pressure over his shoulder?
Yeah, we were up 1, so there was a little bit of a change. Most of the game they were kind of sitting. We were up 1 at the time, so they were a little bit, might have been more if he had time his other 4 times he had it. Then all of a sudden the D is there to kind of spook him type thing. So, it was, I think there was them having to recognize where they were in the game, down 1, and they were pushing it a little bit more.
Penalties threw a wrinkle into it late as well, but I think Ville didn't play for maybe the last half of the third period or so. What went into that? What do you think?
There's nights where you're looking at different pairs, who's having success, who isn't. They got stuck in their end a few times, and it just was, we were kind of looking at 5, we had a 1-goal lead. We were just trying to, try to stay over top of that.
Scott, would you normally rather be facing a team coming off a 9-1 win or a 9-1 loss?
I'm just going to say we're really preparing ourselves to play our way. I'll let Marty worry about his side. I've seen too many of these scenarios. We've seen all these coaching changes that have come in, and we seem to be the team that plays them next.
Right.
We've seen some teams that have had tough games or been on a roll. And that was a lot of what we talked about this morning, our focus on how we have to play, and it's a long 82 games, and there's so many different opponents each night that everybody does play a little bit different, and we just have to focus on how we want to play. And it really seems when we're dialed in to jet hockey and everybody's doing it, all the lines are doing it, and the D are connected as well. That's where our success comes from.
There's a guy that'll be coming in here tomorrow that certainly meant a lot to this organization and the city. Safe to say that just hockey as a sport is better when Patrik Laine is in it, given his very unique skill set?
Yeah, obviously he has the history here, and I remember coaching against someone in here and that power play. Dynamic player. He's right up there with Ovi with that, sitting on that side with that shot, and Yeah, you hate to see any time the elite players of this league. We're always trying to sell this league, especially when your star players aren't able to play. And glad to see him back. Hopefully he's not feeling so good tomorrow. But at the end of the day, I know that he left a good impression here, how he played and the goals that he scored.
You've been around the game for a long time. Just to go back to what was said about the Canadians, it could be a trap game for you guys, right? How do you make sure that your players, when the puck's gonna drop tomorrow night, they're gonna be at the same level that they were last night or the game versus the Boston Bruins before?
Yeah, we really, like I mentioned, we really try to focus on what we're gonna do, how we're going to expose Montreal, so to speak, like we would try to expose Vegas or expose Boston or Columbus, whatever it might be. There's a plan that we have in place, and we need to go out and do that. If we worry about what Montreal's, how they're feeling or what they're trying to do, then we're playing into what they're into their hands. And it's really this. We've been on some really good runs as a group, and we've been able to kind of put the last game behind us and focus on what we have to do tonight, tomorrow, the next game, whatever it is. And really that's what, as much as those big red jerseys will be out there tomorrow, it's not how we look at it. We look at what are the Jets going to do, what do we have to do, shift in, shift out, how do we work together, and hopefully the success from that will kind of have the outcome in our favor.
My question is about Connor Hellebuyck. It's not usual that we see a Vezina Trophy winner improving his statistics from the year he was the best goalie in the league. Have you seen him take another step this year, or is it just become business as usual for him?
You know what? I knew a couple of years ago that he was a good goalie, and I see it in practice every day. Obviously, we see it in the games. He hasn't. I don't know if he's changed. He's just been a great goalie. He still is. He's the elite goalie in the league. He just comes out. His preparation, his focus, how he goes about everything hasn't changed from 2.5 years ago when I came. He just has a different level. I know I hear often our players talk about that's all they know. That's all they've seen. And he's just been a world-class goaltender here for a number of years. And it's funny because you come to expect it when you have it in your backyard every night. And I'm just thankful we do have him.
We all know how dangerous your team can be offensively, especially in the power play. But do you feel that defensively, maybe you rely too much on Connor?
Probably, I not so much rely on him. I think we've put ourselves in some positions that we're allowed. I've talked about our rush game against there. We've given up a lot, and I think that's an area that we're talking about. Whether we're not playing 80s Oilers. Let's just go end-to-end, trade chances, and let Grant Fuhr make highlight saves. That's not how we're going about it. We still feel that we have a good structured team that defends well when we're on our game. And, last night we weren't on our game. Against Boston we were really on our game, and there's been recently some highs and lows of that. Just the consistency for me is probably the biggest thing, and we don't have to let Helly have to stand on his head. And there's been a lot of nights where he has to do that for us, but there's a lot of nights too where he made it really easy on him too, where we spent a lot of time in the opposition end.
If I can I ask one more? After the beginning of the season it was obvious that it couldn't be that way all through season. What has been the challenge the last 10 games to maybe keep the group focused on the next of the season?
Yeah, the whole league is going through the Four Nation situation with all these games and all these. It's amazing. I've talked to a bunch of the coaches. Everybody, the first thing that comes out of their mouth, can you believe our schedule? And yeah, I can believe it because ours is just as bad. It is what it is. And the biggest thing is that early in the year everybody's fresh and they got energy, and now all of a sudden you get in these 11-day road trips, you get into these non-practice schedules where you don't get a chance to touch things and work on things that need touching up on, and you get into some bad habits. You play so many games in a short period of time that the bad habits show up, and sometimes also the other side of that, the fatigue, is the mental part. You make mental mistakes that maybe you didn't do early in the year.